Are we live? Hello, everyone. I think we're live. Usually, I would wait a minute or two before people join in. And I guess they are kind of joining in. Also, on the side, I have my TikTok on here. So if I see a question here, I can also answer it for you guys to learn from. But I'm just going to give my presentation, and then if there are any questions, then obviously, I'm going to answer them at the end of the live stream or live session. I never know what the correct name is for it. But let's get started. Today, I really want to talk about what kind of business should you invest in Africa. So, I don't want to frame it like an African business because it can also be an African business outside of Africa. But within Africa, what kind of African business should you invest in? So that's the topic for today. And I'm just going to give you a list of the industries that I believe in. I personally think are, always a good investment simply because I call it recession proof in a sense that no matter what the economy does, whatever uh, politicians decide to do, it will remain and it will always be there. So I'm just going to go through the list, my personal list of the investments that we always look into. So let's get started. Number one, I have here. Oh, wait a second. Let me just change my screen 1 second. But number one is food business, the food industry. And I don't think you have to ask me why. I mean, no matter what happens, there's always food that we need to eat. The more like the boring foods, like the veggies or like potatoes, or I'm not a kitchen princess, so don't ask me what kind of foods are out there. But when I say food, I also mean agriculture, animal farming, farming in general, chicken farming, whatever it is that produces food for us, go for it. I mean, whatever happens, and when I say whatever happens, I really mean it. Whatever happens, if there's a war, if there's unrest, political leaders don't know what to do and go from left to right, all the shenanigans that are happening, whatever it is, food will always be there. But when you think about food processing, I mean, you have farming, agriculture, we get that. But when there is food, there's something that we need, and that's packaging. A lot of people forget this step. And this is why you generally have supply chain. When there's food, we need to package it. And that packaging, where does that come from? Who delivers the custom packaging? Because if I have potatoes, it's not like I can grab the potatoes by hand and just sell them like that. Packaging, food packaging is actually something you can consider and invest in, which is more on the manufacturing side, by the way, which I also think is a very important industry to invest in. But it's so broad that sometimes it's kind of hard to choose what kind of manufacturing. But food packaging is definitely right there at the top, together with the food itself. And if you're a big investor, I would literally consider to invest in both. So you have the supply chain in your own, power, basically. So there's always constant demand, and you don't need a high education to do this. In all honesty, you can just literally, just go and try, because at the end of the day, it's really, a thing that you need to go and just do. And if you're successful in one African country, you can scale to the other African country, because most African countries, except for some northern countries, are quite fertile. Housing. And then affordable housing, maybe, but housing in general. Right now, I think, or I feel, I didn't do proper research yet, but I feel like the housing market is dominated by luxury properties. Everything is luxury. Even if it's not, by the way, whatever luxury means or used to mean or meant is not it. It's not this. Because it looks nice doesn't mean it's luxurious, but okay, whatever. let's leave that for another day. But everything is luxurious these days, and it's like a label that they use in order to try to sell you and get more money. But just normal housing, why is everybody forgetting about that? Just affordable housing. Nobody focuses on that. In countries like Japan, for example, you literally have projects where people try to use cheap but still quality materials in order to build houses and make it affordable for a larger group. Because at the end of the day, the middle class or lower class, they are quite a big group and they still need housing. So I would recommend that. And there's always a shortage, and actually more people are moving. People with buying power are moving to Africa. So eventually we do need housing. And especially if, the like foreigners come to Africa, they get kids there, grew up there. Eventually the kids move out. So we do need affordable housing at some point. And government support that. You generally get a lot of government support with that. The downside is that you actually do need some funds, like 10,000 or 100,000 will not be sufficient, but I would suggest you work with investors on this. Okay, next, logistics. Everything that I mentioned so far, which is two things, but everything I mentioned so far cannot sustain without logistics. If I cannot transport my food, my packaging, my house materials, if I cannot move it from A to B, it's useless. So I suggest logistics. And it's a nightmare in a way, because in Africa, some, villages, you cannot get there, or you cannot reach them. You cannot reach certain people, or roads are just a pain and it's not doable. You just lose a lot of time just traveling from one city to another. I get it's a problem, but that on its own could be an investment within your portfolio. But logistics, I mean, with e-commerce entering the market and people want to sell online more, it's something that we need, and especially fast delivery. And believe me, there aren't many reliable logistic partners within the continent, besides the big ones, the international ones. But name a few, and I don't mean the ones that that is owned by your friends or something. Like, name a few that actually can safely, transport goods throughout the continent, or even throughout the country that they're based in. So, logistics. Next is education. With the rising population, obviously, quality education is going to be required, and especially with all the new knowledge coming in, and there's a huge, big young population within the continent. So private education or skill training or any type of quality education is going to be high demand very soon, and is already actually. And parents pay a lot of money for education, a lot. I mean, sometimes even like parents that don't have the economical power, somehow they find the money to pay for their school education simply because it's important within the culture to educate your kids, because that's like a validation, a sense of validation. It's important in the culture. So they see that as a type of validation for the kids, or it gives them certainty in a way. So I do think schooling is a good idea. I'm not saying it's the best idea though, because it does come with it's just a lot of work. But still, in my top 10. Then I already said it, manufacturing. Here it is. I remember that I wrote it down, but obviously I mentioned it earlier, manufacturing. But when I say manufacturing, it's so broad. I mean, you can manufacture literally anything. But if you ask me, manufacturing for like an industry would be the smartest. So let's say I just mentioned housing, affordable housing. If there's a new player on the market, he will need a lot of materials. It could be manufacturing from raw materials to goods like the end product, but because we have a lot of resources. So it could be, I don't know, you from oil, like you make plastic from oil, or you make something from that plastic, if that makes sense what I'm saying. So there are certain levels of manufacturing, but whatever it is, if we need it, someone has to make it. And you can look around in your house. Everything you touch and see within the scope that you're sitting in is made by someone. So, and by a factory or manufacturing. So, and also governments are very much supporting manufacturing within the continent right now. There are all kinds of subsidiaries and all these like programs that they have for entrepreneurs who are willing to manufacture within the continent, even if the raw materials come from outside. So manufacturing. So I wrote one down, but I know it's a good business, but I personally do not like it as much, in all honesty. But I will give it to you, and I'm going to tell you why I don't like it. Healthcare. Above all, really, above all, like even above food and water and drink, healthcare is definitely the number one money making machine, because the quality that exists right now is not always good. I mean, we deal with shortage, as in somebody is sick, goes to the hospital, and gets sent away because there's no bed available. Like there's a shortage. And the reason why it's above all is before I eat, I want to be healthy. So if I'm sick or my kid is sick, I don't have to eat. I'd rather have my kid healthy and make sure that I pay for her well-being or health before I eat. So it goes above all. People will just, when they're sick, they just drop everything and pay for healthcare. And this is exactly the reason why I don't like it. And I have very much of a thing with it. Like it's integrity or whatever they want to call it. I don't know. Something in me just doesn't allow it, that I make money off of sick people. So it's not my thing, but whether I like it or not, it is an industry that we need, and somebody needs to make money out of it. Doctors need to be paid, medication needs to be paid. Nobody's doing it for free. So I get it. But again, not my personal um, thing, in all honesty. But it's not about me. Okay. Let me scroll down. This mouse is not working. Energy. And in all honesty, I never invested in energy myself, but we need electricity. You are watching this on a device that needs to be charged, and that device is connected to internet that needs electricity in order to be connected with me. So all in all, electricity is never a waste in that sense. We will always need it, and it will always be, used. The thing is, it is politically tied, so governments have quite some power over whether you can deliver or not. And you can, also a good thing is that you can go for long-term contracts. So you sign long-term contracts with companies, you deliver to areas, to communities. I mean, and it's, if you have the knowledge, the setup can be quite low. So that it is a good investment. I personally don't have experience with it, but I'm hearing that other investors are making good money off of it. And then what else do we have? Water, obviously water. I wrote it down together with energy, but water is the same thing. Like water, we use it, we shower, we flush the toilet, we use it everywhere, we brush our teeth, and it has to be clean. So anything in that supply chain, so anything that provides or helps us get clean water, good investments. I mean, as long as it's quality, a quality product and doesn't break down within the next 2 months. So anything in terms of sanitation can work. And generally, from what I read, it's also NGO backed. So not just government backed, but also NGOs love to back this. So if you're an European diaspora, I know the EU is giving a lot of money, like NGO-ish kind of support to projects like these because they still feel like they need to do that, the West, and they feel like, oh, they still, they're still suffering from or water that is not clean, so we have to help them. I mean, it's free money, just take it if they give it to you, but it's also just an investment. Like it's a impact investment if you accept their money. I get it. Um, so yeah, this is actually my list. Something that I didn't write down here, but just came to mind is waste management. Like any waste, like we throw away a lot of waste. Anything like recycling. I'm not a recycling fan. I'm not into that whole environmental blah blah. But either way, if we throw away something, like we have some, like I have a bottle here, I'm gonna throw it away after it's empty. Who's going to do what with this? Like it is a supply chain on its own. So who is going to take my bottle and turn it into something else, or reuse it, or clean it, and like the whole process? I forgot to write that down, but if you, I do think you need some knowledge on this because there's already a lot going on in the world and other parts of the world, like Asia, Europe. There, even Middle East, they're quite developed in that. Even in Africa, I think. But without the knowledge, I think it's going to be a very expensive project. But whatever, if whether you look right or left, we will need waste management because after somebody takes my waste, what is going to happen with it? And whoever can reduce it the most will obviously, you know, win. Is that even a thing? I don't know, but it's something to consider. Um, yeah, that's actually my list. Maybe something that I can add is also digital services. Like people need to get used in Africa. Now that we have quite okay internet and it's often stable, we can offer our services online, like a VA or education. I mean, this could have been a school that you paid for. I mean, if I prepare it well, it's literally I mentioned the education. This could have been a class that you attend after work, or it could be the skill training that I mentioned, something like this, that you can do from home, or people can delegate things to you and you just take it from there. So it's like that, they call it VA work. So those things can be done. Social media management, a lot of things happen online, like creating listings for web shop, but you have to master the skill first, obviously. But it's very easy entry. Is it like, so what is it, recession proof? My favorite word, I almost forgot it. Is it recession proof? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. It's also not very stable, and it's not really an investment in that sense. It's more an investment in yourself, skill wise. Sorry, but it is something that you can definitely discover. Maybe you can start an agency if you want to make a business out of it. An agency where you outsource people. Is it a good investment? I don't know. It's just something that came up right now, but it could be a good idea. Maybe I should put it like that. So yeah, these are my ideas, the ones that I wrote down and came up with. By the way, going back to manufacturing, I think per country in Africa, there's definitely something food wise or fabric wise, clothing wise, product wise that is very unique within that country. Uh, Even in terms of raw materials that can be produced, like fabrics, many countries have their own fabric or style or fashion style or design that can be manufactured as well. So I think that's quite something to consider if you want to create something unique. And also keep in mind that if you manufacture, let's say in Kenya or Ethiopia or whatever that is, it doesn't mean you have to sell inside that country. You can also sell it to other African countries because there are 53 of them. they all are in demand. And also, your products will be cheaper than exporting it from China in most cases. So look within your niche or community or within your streets. Although Africa is quite big, by the way. Uh, build something. So if you want to go back, I'm just reading something here. If you want to go back to your country, so in your case, you're from Ethiopia. If you want to go back from the States or from Europe, do yourself a favor and start something before you move back, because it's not a market where you can go and get a job and think you get, lots of pay. Like, it's not like the US. Although I must say the US is a little too extreme, if you ask me. But start something before you go. You will regret it. Once you're there, you will really regret it if you don't have a steady income from a company. It's actually way easier to build a business and get an income from that than finding a job and a sustainable job that will actually help you get through the month, because the pay is very low in Ethiopia and many African countries, honestly. Although as a diaspora, you might get a little bit more because you're skilled, but why, waste your skill on someone else's business? How can the youth Ethiopians in the UAE, how the youth Ethiopians can enhance and upgrade our skills? I think the digital product thing comes in handy here. Offer your services. But if you don't have skills, then you have to learn them first. I think a big problem, not just with Ethiopians, with the African community, they come in, they tell you, I want work. What do you mean? What do you mean? As a business owner, I cannot do, or, it means nothing to me. If I run a business, it's there to make money and not to waste money. The moment it wastes money, I don't like it. So I need to know, if I hire you, are you gonna make the company money or costing the company money? And generally, if you don't have a specific skill, you're wasting money. So you're just helping yourself, but you're not doing anything for the company. That's just how business owners see the whole process. And they should, because they're not there to help you. They're there to make money. Same like you, by the way, then. So make sure you are like good in one thing or two, like have a skill, one or two, maybe three if you're very good. But be good at something, but don't come in and be like, oh, find me a job, or I need a job. Believe me, no entrepreneur, if you're really skilled, an entrepreneur, even if they don't have money, they will find money to hire you. If you're really skilled and know how to do the job, if you're really good, they will put a lot of money down, even if they don't have it, to get you. But if you have no skill, then it's kind of useless, because you're all over the place and I have to pay you to teach you something, and maybe you'll leave the company. That's how business owners see the whole thing. So upgrade your skills. Just these days on the internet, there's so much. It's impossible to not learn something. Invest in a course, maybe. There's so much you can do. Let me see if I kind of some questions. I have some business idea. I'm also on TikTok, by the way. I have some business idea. Currently living in Dubai. Are you interested in food tech innovation? I don't know. I'm not interested personally, but if you are, you should do it. I don't invest in ideas, by the way. Ideas, I mean, ideas don't generate income. So the moment it generates income, that's when investors come in. What is an example of a skill? Can you fix a car? That's a skill that I cannot. Can you fix, I don't know, like, can you, for example, if it's digital, can you build a web shop that is very good from start to end? Can you solve problems in the broadest way, by the way? But pick one problem. Can you solve it? Can you do something that I can't? And can you do it well? It could also be cooking. For example, I'm not a good cook. But if he's not good, then he's not skilled. Then he goes. It's just skill can be anything, but very good, better than the average or any person out there. Let me see what questions. Okay. All right. I think, do you invest in Bitcoin? No, I do not. I always tell myself I do want to invest in Bitcoin, but honestly, I'm not going to talk about this because, you know, I'm active in the blockchain space still, but I'm not going to talk about this anymore because I learned that this is for experts. If you're in that space already and understand it, it's a good investment, but don't do it if you don't know anything about it. So I learned the hard way. But I'm going to close my live stream here. I hope you enjoyed. I'm going to put this live so you can rewatch it. And thank you for the questions. So see you next time.